Welcome, one and all, to another brand new episode of Undisputed Nerds. I am your host, Zane, also known as Zane Taicho. As always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-hosts, Gentleman Gamer. How are you, good sir?
Co-host. Hello, everyone in Radio Land. Good evening. Good evening to you. I say evening. We are currently filming this a bit later than we normally do on a Friday night, so I'm exhausted after a week at work. How are you doing, Zane?
I'm not too bad. I've had dessert and everything. Like I had a sticky toffee pudding for dinner.
Oh, you rebel! Unlike me, who went to see a friend and got home late and quaffed down a pizza before coming onto the quaffed. Yes, good. Has it been a good week for you?
Yeah, I'd say so. I've managed to catch up on a few comics and all sorts of bits and pieces. Really, catch up on some manga. So yeah, I'd say it's been all right.
I did see that your shocking reaction to Among Us announcing that they're going to do a manga.
Yes. Well, I guess that's the point. We've had a rollout of reels on Instagram, and the comments have been hilarious and amazing. So thank you if you've been popping comments on there. Have you seen those?
Yes, I have seen those. Of course, I've seen those. Now, I shared the reel. One of the reels is also my reel now.
Oh yeah.
The Home Alone one.
Oh so, yeah.
Go check them out, guys. They're on Instagram from our podcast. They're very funny. They are very amusing.
TikTok as well, and YouTube Shorts.
If I do say so myself, I'm hilarious. If I do say so myself, God, and unbelievably arrogant. That's the two qualities I bring to the table. But yeah, well, this week has not been a good week for me, Zane. It's been absolute murder at work, and I've been miserable. No. So you're going to get some what I can only describe as happy it's the weekend yet surly energy from the week. So it's the perfect combination of gentleman aggression.
I guess one would say it's the perfect Alec Quartermain energy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not?
Is it
Quartermain?
Are you talking about the Sean Connery Quartermain?
I am talking about the Sean Connery. I couldn't think of his first name, so I made one up. I thought Alec sounded like a great Quartermain first name.
Alan Quartermain, isn't it? I thought.
Maybe it's Alan, maybe it's Alec.
It's not Alec. You're thinking of Sean Bean. You mixed up your Sean's. Let me. I need to find that out. Are you
fact checking this right now?
Yeah, it is Alan Quartermain. It is. Yeah, it is Alan. Yeah, not Alec. Not Alec Trevelyan, who was Sean Bean in GoldenEye. You've mixed up your Sean's.
I mean, which Sean would you want to be?
Sean Bean, obviously. Are you kidding me? Connery's a monster. Was a monster. May he rest in peace. I don't want to be associated with somebody who's allegedly done some dodgy things in his past. Go and look it up, guys. I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast. I'd much rather be a famous actor who dies in every movie he's in.
Nice.
There we go. Well, that's a good controversial start.
It's brightened your mood now.
You always brighten my mood, Zane. You always brighten my mood. You cheer me right up. Yeah, thank you for bringing the horrific person Sean Connery into the conversation. Great actor, though, guys. Great actor. He's one of the few people I know that he's got such a determination to his roles that no matter what role he does, he will always portray it with a Scottish accent. Sorry, laughing at my own joke. That was terrible. I'm sorry. Anyway, so Zane, this week,
yes,
what are we doing this week, Zane?
This week we will be ranking from best to worst some of the amazing 90s cartoons that we had out there. We've actually shortened the list.
Yeah, we have.
It's probably a disclaimer to put in there.
Because I suddenly realized how many 90s cartoons I haven't seen.
So we'll be ranking some 90s cartoons.
So
that's the long short of it.
Yeah, they're ones that we have had experience with and are quite familiar with and have strong opinions of. So there are some that are not on that list that you might think of, like when you think of the 90s cartoons, you might go, oh yeah, what about this one? This is our personal choice for these cartoons in the 90s, and the ones that we remember, because I've got a memory like a sieve. So what's your face? I look forward to it. Look forward to doing the tier list. You are the guy who's the co-host of the show.
Oh, yeah. Let us know in the comments if we've missed any of your favorites, by the way. That'd be good.
Definitely. But before any of that, it's time, Zane. It's time. We always have to kick off the show with our now regularly recurring segment. We all know what time it is. It's time for What Is All the Rage with Nicolas Cage.
Ridden Rain Man.
You ridden Rain Man?
Yeah, because he came down.
So was he nice to you? Was Rain Man nice to you?
That's a new one. Yes, there will be. I wasn't. I was choking at my own. That was good. Thank you for that. Yes, it's time for What's All the Rage with Nicolas Cage. So this week, Nicolas Cage has been a bit quiet on the news front, guys. So I thought what we'll do is we'll do a little reminder out there for everyone to remind us all of the great acting talent that Nicolas Cage actually is. And some people might not realize this, but Nicolas Cage has actually won an Oscar for Best Actor. He won the Oscar in 1995 for his lead role in Leaving Las Vegas. He was then also nominated for a second Oscar for the film adaptation in 2002. So when everyone looks at Nicolas Cage and thinks, my goodness, that man is an overacting crazy person, just remember he's won an Oscar and he's been nominated twice.
That's very true.
And that has been What's All the Rage with Nicolas Cage this week. I love him. We're not going to give any context to that clip, by the way. No context whatsoever to that audio clip, but that is legitimately Nicolas Cage talking, by the way.
Am I right in thinking, has Will Smith ever won an Oscar?
Mm-mm.
No,
he was nominated for Ali, I think, but he's not actually. Well, that's a random. Why have you got a Will Smith audio clip?
No. I was just thinking, like,
bringing it up.
There's a lot of buzz that he might win an Oscar for King Richard.
Yeah, the Williams sister story. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but apparently it's very good. For a biopic, because what's his face is in it as well. Is it Frank Bernthal is in it, or is it Frank Grillo? What's the guy? It's Punisher, isn't it?
Grillo, I think. Or you thinking of the guy who was in Captain America and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, who was Crossbones.
Let me see. Crossbones.
I think it was Bernthal, actually. I think.
Oh, no, I think you're right. I think
it's John
Bernthal. Now you said it. Yeah.
Did I say Frank Bernthal? I said Frank Bernthal, didn't I? I meant it's because his name's Frank Castle. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's John Bernthal. I'm pretty sure.
I was thinking of Grillo because I watched the Hitman's Bodyguard Wife.
Yeah, it's John Bernthal.
And Grillo's in that.
I watched. Oh no, which one was it? One of the Purges. There's the Purge, and then there's all the other Purges, and I watched one of those, and Frank Grillo was in it. It's the first Purge, I think it was the first one, where they.
Really?
No, wait, it can't be. It wasn't the first one. Is it the? No, it's not the Forever Purge, because that's the one that's just come out. Oh my god, this is hard to follow. Purge Anarchy, I think that was the one. The one that's set in like 2040. I don't know. Anyway,
I haven't seen them.
He's good in it. I think he's in 2, actually. I think he's in 2 of them. But anyway, write in if you know which one, which
the chronological order of the Purge movies.
You said that really weird. You sounded like Austin Powers when you said that. Chronological order. I'm going to go get you some orange sherbet. All right, should we get into tips and bits?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do some tips and bits, guys. It's tips and bits times. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up and say today's tips and bits is going to be very, very heavily Marvel skewed. because there has been a metric ton of Marvel news and interviews coming out from all kinds of different sources. But the one bit of non-Marvel news I've got this week is Star Wars related. So obviously the Book of Boba Fett is out and we are continuing to monitor that. We'll probably give a review of the whole series at the end. So there was an interview where Tamura Morrison was talking to the Washington Post, and somebody asked him about what the plans are for him in the future past Boba Fett, because Boba Fett, Zane, Boba Fett, because obviously he is not just Boba Fett, but he's also the face and voice of thousands and thousands of clones from the Clone War era, as the whole template is based on him and Jango Fett. And this is basically what he said in the interview when they asked him about future projects potentially for Disney Plus, and he chose his words extremely carefully. He said, well, there are these people, and I'm thinking of Captain Rex for one. He looks a little bit like me. There's also Commander Cody. I mean, what happened to those guys? They're all those clone armies. That could be something fresh, new, and exciting. So a lot of people are obviously reading between the lines on that. One thing that is worth noting is that Kenobi is coming out soon. And there is supposed to be, apparently it has been pretty much confirmed that there's going to be flashback scenes to the Clone Wars. So some people are thinking that he's going to appear as Commander Cody or Rex during those scenes. It's also worth noting as well that Ahsoka is coming out soon, and Rex is still alive. So there's every potential that, bearing in mind, it'll be around the right age frame for Tamura Morrison to be playing Rex now. He might pop in there. But what are your thoughts on seeing Tamura Morrison expanding his range and playing different versions of Fets?
I think it'd be cool. I mean, pay the man. Like, I mean, he's not exactly going to be doing
Show me my money.
He's not going to be playing as Aquaman's dad for a third time anytime soon, is he? So I guess it's controversial.
Yes, that is that. Stark views thrown out there. Nicely done. Okay, I'm fine. I don't want another series based around any clones or anything like that. But I could definitely. I could sit with a nice little cameo in a Kenobi, a nice little flashback cameo. That'd be lovely.
I just had a thought. Imagine if they did like a buddy cop spin-off series where it's both Rex and Cody, and the whole series he has to double act.
That would be amazing. And then they're hunting Boba Fett. and Boba's got a Force ghost of Jango. It's the ultimate acting challenge.
Or I think there is a third one in Rebels. There's Commander Wolf.
Oh yeah, probably. Well, I mean, there's lots of them, isn't it? It's a clone army.
There is, yeah.
And he's doing all the extras.
He might have to do what do you call it, the Bad Batch at some point. He might have to be like Hunter.
There you go. Yeah, it'll be the greatest acting challenge since Sean Connery tried to do a Chicago accent in The Untouchables. He won an Oscar for that. Anyway, anyway, yes. Let us know your thoughts on what you think Tamura Morrison should appear in. Should he appear in all those different roles
at the same time?
At the same time. All right, so moving on to Marvel then. So we're starting off with a little bit of going back in time a little bit. So we obviously all have a love and fondness in our heart for most of the Marvel Netflix series, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Punisher, etc. So there has been an interview recently with Vincent D'Onofrio. He had an interview with Marvel News Desk, and basically has confirmed through this quote, and it's a bit of a long quote, but he's confirmed that the reason why the Netflix series were cancelled was because of the Disney Plus series. So, so this is his quote. I don't think any of us were okay about the news that Daredevil had been cancelled. I think that we were like, oh, okay, we had a hit show and now it's gone. You know, at the same time, the group Save Daredevil started to rise, hashtag Save Daredevil started to rise. We started to learn the reasons why that happened. And so we understood that Marvel was doing because Disney Plus was coming out. So, you know, when you're in this business a long time, like we all have been, it kind of made sense business-wise. What didn't make sense to us was why we couldn't continue that show or the idea of how that worked and how well it worked. Conceptually, I think we were disappointed, but I think we all understood what was going on and it was sort of inevitable. So there's been a lot of conversations and a lot of speculation about the idea that maybe the Netflix shows were phased out because Marvel had plans to bring out their own, or sorry, Disney had plans to bring out their own streaming service and have their own content. And that is the first pretty much concrete evidence that we've gotten that that was the reason why Daredevil and all those shows were cancelled, especially in the shape that they were in, because a lot of them, I'm thinking of Iron Fist, I'm thinking of Luke Cage, they were ended with cliffhanger endings, which we'll never see a resolution to unless they introduce them somehow, but I can't see that happening. Thoughts on this, Zane? I think it's pretty much something we all saw coming.
Yeah, and let's face it, like Netflix is its own harsh critic. You know, we joke about it, but they're known for axing series after 2 seasons, or you know, you'd be lucky to see a 3rd or 4th out or something. So I guess it was no surprise that they got axed eventually, because again, Netflix is kind of ruthless in that regard.
I mean, we can all remember when Stranger Things was axed after 3 seasons. Oh no, wait, they just haven't bothered to release the 4th one yet. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. It's sad, but it does make sense why they did that. Hopefully, now that... So, it's big spoilers, guys. Big spoilers. So, turn off if you haven't watched either No Way Home or Hawkeye. Now that Kingpin and Daredevil are in the MCU, maybe we'll see something popping up. But sticking with Disney Plus, moving on to the next piece of news, some good news. It looks like, according to One Take News, the release date, the premiere date for Moon Knight has been confirmed.
Really?
Now, this is a rumor. This is not completely accurate, 100%, but they're fairly reliable. That hashtag show, who are a lot less reliable, have also backed it up. But apparently, the rumor is that Moon Knight is going to premiere on Disney Plus on March the 30th.
Wow, so not far.
Not far away. Not far away at all. So I'm excited for Moon Knight. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
After seeing that first trailer that we watched, the little teaser trailer that we watched together, the reactionary trailer, oh, it looks good. Oh, it looks tasty. Oh, oh. Are you excited to see the incoming of Moon Knight and Khonshu?
Yeah, I am actually. Especially knowing some of the bits and pieces of the recent stuff with Moon Knight. Like, I think there was like a whole sort of Moon Knight versus Black Panther at one point. Like,
yes,
and they talk about each other's sort of gods, which I kind of like the idea of. But yeah,
have they confirmed a bad guy in this yet? I'm not sure if they have.
I don't think they have. They've been very tight-lit on a lot of these.
I'm wondering if it's going to be Nightmare, because there's a few Moon Knight villains. So there's his most famous villain is Bushmaster, who appeared in the Netflix series, but he was very different in the Netflix series.
Yeah,
and then he's got the villain Nightmare. He's got, I can't remember. I think Scarecrow. But not the Batman Scarecrow, but the Marvel version of Scarecrow. I think he's a Ghost Rider villain from what I can remember, but I think he's popped up sometimes in Moon Knight. I'd be interested to see Nightmare kind of fits in with the like Nightmare fits in with the dark tone there. It looks like this is set in and the duality and not knowing what's real and what's not. So that would be quite good. But no, man, super hyped for Moon Knight. It looks fantastic from what we've seen from that teaser trailer. And hopefully we'll get another trailer very soon, which we'll probably end up doing a reaction to.
The first vigilante sort of Marvel project we've seen.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess.
I wouldn't say Ant-Man's a vigilante.
Not really, no.
No.
I mean, technically, the reason why I'm hesitating is technically Hawkeye was when he was Ronin.
Yeah, that's the point.
but that they didn't really explore that as a series.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it might be. Let us know, guys, if we're wrong about that. We may be very wrong, but yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, moving on to some more Disney Plus TV news. So we had it confirmed that Dominique Thorne is going to make her MCU debut as Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, and she's actually going to show up in Black Panther first. So this is where it gets interesting. So the Illuminati have previously reported that the son or the daughter, if they're going to gender flip it, of Obadiah Stane would make their MCU debut. And the site has basically now been sharing a character breakdown for the show's main baddie. Now, this is where it gets interesting, okay? So this is the description for the main baddie of this show.
Okay.
Charming, magnetic, slick and oily. He's always working an angle to his own advantage. He's handsome with an athletic build. He also has a crew working for him. So there's quite a few people who could fit that description. The Illuminati think, I'm not so sure about this one, but it's worthwhile discussing. They think it could be Parker Robbins, aka the Hood. Now, so he's basically the Hood. He's a petty thief, and he has an encounter with a demon. The demon gives him boots and this red hood. So the boots allow him to levitate, whilst the cloak allows him to turn invisible when he holds his breath.
Okay.
And he uses that to become. He basically takes over Kingpin's racket and becomes the new Kingpin of crime for a period in the MCU. He's a really interesting. Every time he uses the cloak, it takes a piece of his soul, I think was the idea behind it. So he's a very interesting villain. Like, he is a very interesting villain, and he's very compelling. And if you haven't read The Hood, which is basically his book, you should. It's really good. The only thing I don't like about this is that he is not a traditional Iron Man, Ironheart villain at all. Like he never. So unless Marvel are going to do their classic thing where they jumble everything up and mix it all up, for a different character origin, which they might well do. Don't know how I feel about him being the lead villain in this. I did like the idea of Obadiah Stane's son, Ezekiel Stane, or whatever they, rename them into. I liked the idea of that because that fits quite well with the Iron Man history.
Yeah.
But yeah, not sure on the Hood. I'm guessing you don't know much about this character to be able to kind of say yay or nay.
No, I haven't. I've just done a quick Google. In a lot of ways, he kind of reminds me of the Shadow, like looking at the pictures of him. But I would have really liked to have seen, especially from the description, I would have thought Justin Hammer.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout. That is a good shout. I would say Justin Hammer fits that a lot better than the Hood.
Yeah.
Sort your stuff out, Illuminati. Undisputed Nerds calling you out.
But I wonder if they're saving, again, speculation. This is a massive theory, but I wonder if Justin Hammer will be in Iron Wars with Rhodey.
Yes, that probably fits better, doesn't it? Considering he made War Machine's suit originally, from Stark Tech, obviously. Yeah, interesting. This is the only thing that I'm finding a bit weird about these shows. They're not actually. There's a tremendous lack of detail from Marvel about these shows. Well, it was the same with Hawkeye. Really, we didn't know much about the shows in the run up to them. I don't know whether that adds to it or whether it takes it away, but it is weird. Maybe they're doing it deliberately to kind of refocus things on cinema. And say, cinema's our main. We want big cinematic experiences. I don't know.
There's been a lot of talk about how they've been promoting things recently. So, for example, the lead up to Shang-Chi and with Eternals, a lot of the promotional marketing was really late, really close to the release dates instead of it being dragged out, if you know what I mean. Like a lot of sort of trailers and a lot of sort of promotional stuff coming out in between. It felt like a load at once just before it dropped. I don't know if
Right.
that's due to the pandemic, but that's a lot of people have noticed that in recent years in comparison to others.
Yeah, it's weird. It is a weird situation. But well, speaking of weird and speaking of big MCU movies, Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out this year, guys. Exciting times. It's on the way. And the Tessa Thompson, who plays Valkyrie in it, has revealed with an interview with W Magazine that the Asgardian lady will gain some weird new powers in Thor: Love and Thunder. And I would just like to read this quote to you, Zane, and get your opinion on a particular sentence in this. So this is the quote from Tessa Thompson. She has weird skills, to be honest. She can sense when someone is close to death, and she takes them into Valhalla, which is essentially the afterlife. She can revive people, but when she revives people, sometimes she ends up in their body. It's a weird thing. It can be quite erotic. And then she has superhuman strength and is essentially a god. So Tessa Thompson has basically said that Valkyrie's new powers are quite erotic. What do you think about that, Zane? Do you think that Tessa Thompson going into your body would be quite erotic?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the correct answer is
Ridden Rain Man.
You ridden Rain Man?
Yeah,
Was he nice to you? Was Rain Man nice to you?
I mean, as long as she's nice to me.
Was Tessa nice to you? You've ridden Tessa? Oh, God. I've gone too far. I'm sorry. Oh, dearie me. All right. Well, moving swiftly on. Yeah, I guess that's just going to be an evolution of the character and what happens to her, because she's the only Valkyrie left, isn't she? She's the last of the Valkyries.
Yeah, I did see spoilers, I guess, but she took a photo of herself in like an outfit
It's
for
like
Thor.
Oh, sorry.
And I think it said something like King of Asgardians, because at the end of Endgame, he left.
Yeah, she's
left
the
her
queen
in
of
charge.
Asgard, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, that's not surprising, is it? Though, let's be honest. If he becomes king again, like I'm not. There's only so many places you can go with that. So, well, speaking of potential spoilers, this one is super hot, super hot. So, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. We mentioned it earlier on. Obviously, Riri Williams is going to turn up in it. So there's been a lot of rumblings about the idea that after Endgame, I think it was, or maybe Infinity War, but I think it was Endgame, Okoye makes a comment about there was a disturbance in the ocean.
Yes.
And Natasha asks, are we doing anything about it? And she says, it was an earthquake in the ocean. We leave it. So Bleeding Cool. So they have reported now. Bleeding Cool, they rarely post stuff, but they are incredibly reliable when they do. So they have revealed some fresh pieces of intel from Wakanda Forever. Yeah. And the site has revealed that we should expect to see Namor, Submariner, his cousin Namora, and Atlantean warlord Atuma in the sequel. So apparently Namor's role is going to be pretty similar to Black Panther's in Civil War. So likely to set up a solo outing of his own somewhere down the line. This is where it gets super interesting for me. The site also claims to reiterate previous rumors from Wakanda Forever, which will introduce Fantastic Four villain Doctor Doom. And they've heard... Thank you. They've heard that his presence will be... It's going to be a minor one. Okay. It's likely that it'll just imply that the Latverian leader was responsible for Wakanda and Atlanta squaring off against each other. So apparently there's been like rumors that they're working on a costume like for Doctor Doom. So like behind the scenes, there's like Marvel Studios execs, not execs, sorry, the they've had the fittings and whatnot. Okay. They've also noted, and this is also very interesting. It's noted that Namor and Namora will not be played by white actors.
Good.
So in fact, the Atlanteans, they won't be blue, but it could explain previous reports that, I'm going to butcher the name, Tanok Huerta is playing Namor. And Atuma is also rumored to have a really significant role. There's a lot there to take in if that's accurate, but that sounds awesome. That sounds amazing. And it sounds like they might be leaning into the idea that Doctor Doom is going to be this like behind the scenes machinator of like all this stuff, who's making stuff happen in the world to benefit himself, which is pretty much what he should be. And I assume his proper full screen debut will be in the Fantastic Four movie. But Zane, thoughts? Give me what you got.
That sounds amazing. The other thing that springs to mind as well is they did such an amazing job world building and kind of opening the idea of Wakanda. Like, this is what it looks like. This is the vibe and everything. And the fact that they may do that again with the sequel and go like, here's the world of Atlantis. Like, this is what it'll look like. This is the design and everything. That's exciting because they did an amazing job first time round. Also, we've experienced something similar on the DC side where they were like James Wan's Aquaman, and people were like, wow, this looks amazing.
Yes.
I'm interested to see how the Marvel version looks.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see that. This could be the opening that for the cosmic universe that like Guardians was, where it's like, but you see an underwater universe kind of thing. So yeah, very, very excited. Also extraordinarily excited to see Doctor Doom, especially if they do him right. Which he should, he's a genius. So that's what
100%. Like, I'm sure Feige will be all over it. Like, they've done such a great job with so many other characters. Like, Doctor Doom is just one of those that I feel like every faith that they will do great with him.
Yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited for it. Before the end of the year, it's coming out. So, yeah. So whilst you're up, Zane, whilst you're up, I'm finishing off tips and bits this week with one for you. Your favorite actor in the entire universe, and dare I say lover, Ben Affleck. There has been some hot rumors this week. Now I'm gonna shoot down the rumor immediately and say this is not going to happen, guys, but I'm bringing this up for Zane's purposes and for you.
Okay.
Apparently, there's been a really crazy rumor that has come out this week about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You may have seen this rumor, Zane, but the rumor is that apparently, and it's not confirmed, take it with a pinch of salt, guys, and it's definitely not going to happen in the film, so don't expect to see him in it. But apparently, Marvel executives reached out to Affleck to appear in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as Daredevil.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Now, let's face it, it's never going to happen because Ben Affleck has not been interested in reprising the role of Daredevil at all because he only did it to be Batman. But what are your thoughts? Would you have liked to have seen Ben Affleck in the Multiverse of Madness?
I mean, yes. Secondly, they would have had to play some Hoobastank and some Evanescence as he steps through the portal.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like,
I'm thinking one gets like stabbed or dies or something like that, and then the only person who can save him is Daredevil, and then Evanescence bring me to life comes just as he steps through the portal.
But he has to do like some sort of weird CGI flip that also does a 360 around him at the same time.
Yes, whilst dodging Bullseye's size that are also coming out of the portal. And Colin Farrell just going, Bullseye! The only way I want to see this version of Daredevil in the MCU is if he's presented and then Charlie Cox's Daredevil punches him in the face. But yes, there you go. That's a little rumor killer on the end for you there, Zane. So
have you seen all the rumors about Patrick Stewart and Sophie Turner?
No. I hope you don't mean together.
Not together, no. But there's these rumors that they'll make cameos in Multiverse of Madness. And the whole idea is Patrick Stewart. It was all like on Twitter, so again, take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is that Patrick Stewart will be back as Professor X, but they'll have Sophie Turner as Jean.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again,
I'm not. Look, I'm one of the people who didn't. I don't mind Dark Phoenix. It wasn't obviously the grand finale that the Fox film should have gone out on, but like I don't mind it. I actually prefer that film to Apocalypse, believe it or not. Like I think Apocalypse was awful, and they really did not do it well. And not just because of the hype as well for Apocalypse, because Apocalypse is kind of a big deal as far as like the Marvel Universe is concerned, and they did not do him right. So whereas I actually thought they did the story of Jean Grey in Dark Phoenix better than the X3 Last Stand version of Phoenix. So I didn't mind it. I did also see this week. It was interesting that it's whilst we're in the Marvel realm. You see Tom Holland saying that he was looking forward to moving on from Spider Boy Peter Parker.
No.
Yeah. Which I assume is an advent into his adulthood. So we're going to see grown up Peter Parker. But I just love the way he described it. It was like, I'm moving on from Spider Boy.
I was listening to a podcast. I think it was Absolute Comics. And they
shout out to Absolute Comics.
A shout out. I think they mentioned as well is that they've essentially dragged out his origins into 3 movies.
Yes, they have. Yeah.
So by the end of it, we've got an actual Spider-Man by the end of the whole thing.
Yeah, but that's because, that's true. And that's because they actually hired an actor who was young enough to be Spider-Man for that period of time. Instead of hiring 28-year-old Tobey Maguire to play a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's like stop the bus, like in that first film, like if honestly, bearing in mind Tobey Maguire was not a young man really when they started filming Spider-Man. If I saw a strange man chasing after a school bus saying stop the bus and banging on the doors, I'd definitely keep driving. That is not the kind of person you want to stop the bus for.
Have you heard those stories of is it Joe Malag? I can never say his surname. Played as Deathstroke in the DCEU.
Oh God, what's his name?
Joe Malagmio?
Don't say it. Don't speak. Hang on. Deathstroke actor. Joe Manganiello. Joe Manganiello. Yeah, I can't say it either. Joe Manganiello. That's what it is. Joe Manganiello.
That guy.
Yes.
He said in quite a few interviews that he had to shave twice a day when he was playing Flash Thompson. Because he'd get like 5 o'clock shadow.
Twice a day? How fast does that guy's head? What? I'm assuming I'm hoping he's talking about just his face.
He was saying he was getting like 5 o'clock shadow when they would, do certain scenes, and they were like, "You're gonna need to have another shave." Like, there's only so much makeup can do.
Amazing. Yeah, I do remember seeing that there was apparently Sam Raimi or maybe it wasn't Sam Raimi, but one of the people on set wanted Joe Manganiello to actually punch Tobey Maguire for real and paid him money to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to work on a Sam Raimi set. It sounds horrible. He sounds like he's just horrible to his actors. Just ask Bruce Campbell. But yes, anyway, that is all the tips and bits for this week that I want to talk about. Anyway.
Hey.
So, should we move on to the main event, Zane?
It is time for the main event.
Thanks, Mark Henry. Enough talk.
So we have got some 90s cartoons to rank. Where do you want to start?
Oh, well, let's start with probably the one that I have seen the least of, which is the Superman series.
Okay,
probably
Superman
the
event.
one I've seen. The New
Superman
Adventures of
Adventures?
Superman.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, it came out in the wake of, so is it like 95, 96, somewhere around there? I think it came out, and it was in the wake of the Batman the Animated Series being a massive success.
Mhm.
And they thought, well, we've taken our technically number 2 character, or let's be honest, it's Batman's number 1 now, isn't he? Let's be perfectly honest, because Superman's number.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, they still consider Superman to be their number 1 comic character, and they thought, let's make a series out of it. So I think it's still Bruce Timm, isn't it, who does the
It's
work
still
on it?
Bruce Timm. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was 4 seasons, 54 episodes.
Yeah, they do. So normally I think the golden number is 50 for syndication. So what
Okay.
they know, what most cartoon series in the 90s, what they used to do is they used to churn out enough episodes so that they could basically put it on syndication, so it would just keep getting repeated over and over and over again. And so, like, normally, unless a show's doing really badly and they only do it like a 1 season or a 2 season, normally it goes to like 4 or 5 so that they can get those magic number of episodes. Well, back in the day, I don't know if that's still the case nowadays, because it works slightly differently with Netflix and streaming. Yeah, I mean, this is basically the Superman that we see in Justice League Unlimited in the 2000s, which is not in this list because it was in the 2000s, guys. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's a classic Superman tale. I will say, I don't know if it found its feet in terms of being able to tell Superman compellingly. I think Batman is a lot more of an interesting character, compelling wise, to be able to kind of do that show on. I know that Superman has. Everyone knows Superman's story, like everyone knows it, and I'm much more interested to see some of the later stuff in the Superman. Like it wasn't out at the time, but if they were to redo this series now, I'd like to have seen like War of the Kryptonians, or some of the other like later stories with General Zod in it and stuff like that. But what are your? I do remember an episode with Metallo, I think, in this, which sticks out in my mind, where they have an amazing fight. But like, what are your memories of this series, Zane?
So again, this is probably going to come up quite a lot in this conversation as well, because we're being in the UK, we were only exposed to so many episodes cross between normal TV and cable. So I didn't really get to really watch this until sort of in like one big run. It's probably towards the end of the 2000s. And I really liked it. Like, I really appreciate what they were doing with it. And the funny thing is as well, Bruce Timm had said in interviews that they purposely nerfed Superman in this.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
To make him more relatable to the audience.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's little things, but for example, he wears a spacesuit when he goes to space, and then they can make toys out of that as well.
Yes. Yeah,
there's weird little things. Also, fun fact, one of the first videos I ever bought with my pocket money was the Batman and Superman animated movie where they cross over.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, wow.
But yeah, this for me, it was a great series, a great introduction to the mythos of Superman, as well as the colourful cast of characters, because of course you've had Lex Luthor voiced by Clancy Brown. There we go. And yeah, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, the full works is there, and like you said, the villains as well. Like,
I'm gonna make sure that is actually right now, because you're making me question it after you just said that. I'm gonna have to look up a lot of these names, because a lot of these names are like the thing about the names of the voice actors from that period of time is a lot of them were portrayed by a lot of the same people. So like it's weird to think of, like, one of the ones later on we'll talk about, but the 2 main characters in it are literally the same person. It was Clancy Brown. Oh, I love Clancy Brown so much, man. I love him so much. If you haven't seen, they've just done Dexter. So Dexter New Blood has just come out, which is it's set after the horrific ending of the TV show Dexter, and Clancy Brown is in Dexter New Blood, and he is
Okay.
phenomenal. Like, it is amazing. For those, just for the record, just off topic completely, guys. If you liked Dexter, if you liked the original the first 4 series, which are considered the best series of Dexter, and then it all kind of started to go off a cliff. If you liked those first 4 series and you were so disappointed with the ending of Dexter, watch Dexter New Blood, guys, because it is incredibly good. Like, incredibly good.
Wow.
Hot take there. But yes, Tim Daly was Clark Kent, Superman.
Yes.
I think he went on to be Superman in the future. You got Lauren Tom was in it. She's a very famous voice actress. Dana Delaney was Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And then Clancy Brown, obviously, is as you just said, as Lex Luthor. Yeah, I mean, you know, classic. But like Lauren Tom, you'll see coming up a lot. Like, she comes up a lot. She was Amy in Futurama as well, which is, I suppose we could have technically put Futurama on this list as well, I guess. But meh. Again, it's our own personal choices. I didn't realize that Lisa Edelstein was in this as well. That's weird. That's really weird. She's best known for being in House, but she was Mercy, Lex Luthor's.
This gave us Mercy, because I don't think Mercy was canon until after this.
No, I don't think that was what I remember it for. So there's so Michael Ironside is Darkseid in this.
Yes.
Or Darkseid. So Michael Ironside is famous for being a lot of it. He's obviously been in loads of films.
Mm-hmm.
He's Sam Fisher from the Splinter Cell games.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go. He's an incredible. He's got an incredible. He's been in. He was in Starship Troopers.
Yes.
He's in Total Recall. He's in Scanners. He's a big deal. So yeah, he was Darkseid. And then also the reason why I remember the Metallo fight is because Malcolm McDowell is Metallo. So for those of you who are not aware of Malcolm McDowell, he is a British actor. He was in A Clockwork Orange. He has been in hundreds of things. Hundreds and hundreds of things. I think he was also in Wing Commander 4. There's a random reference for you. He's in Star Trek Generations. He's in the one where Kirk dies. He's the baddie in that.
Oh, right. Okay.
And he's also Dr. Loomis in the Rob Zombie Halloweens. So he's been in loads of stuff. He's been in loads. If you see his face, he's got one of those faces, Zane, where when you look at him, you'll be like, "Oh, that guy! I know that guy."
This had some great animation as well, by the way. Like, thinking back on it, the action sequences were really clean in this.
It's interesting you say that, because I think that's gonna come up a lot. I think throughout most of the Bruce Timm series that we've got on here, is that the animation looks incredible in them. Yeah, I would put this at a solid B.
Yeah, I would too.
It didn't set the world on fire, but it's well worth a watch.
Absolutely. And they got some great action figures from it as well.
They did. That's always the mark of a good cartoon.
It is.
All right. So moving on, let's get this one out of the way quickly, because I know that you don't probably want to say a lot about it, but this for me was one of the shows that I grew up with. Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy. This was my introduction into gross out humor.
Okay.
It is, if you've never seen this show, it's absolutely bizarre, but it's fantastic. So the animation is kind of it's a bit rough, but it still looks good even to this day. The reason why I love this show so much is that, so it's basically about a Chihuahua and a cat. So the Chihuahua Ren and the cat Stimpy, and their bizarre relationship with each other and how they hate each other, but they also love each other. And it's standalone kind of episodes where there's just weirdness. Both characters, Ren and Stimpy, are played by the same person, by Billy West, who is one of the most famous voice actors of his generation. I think he's still currently the voice of Bugs Bunny, just universally the voice of Bugs Bunny. He's Fry from Futurama, as well as the Professor, as well as loads of other people in Futurama. He's been in Simpsons.
Was he Scooby-Doo as well?
Yes, I think he might well have been. Yes, I think you're right. Yeah. Basically, he's been he was in Hanna-Barbera a lot as well when when that was still around in the late 80s, early 90s. So yeah, he's incredible. But yeah, the show is it's so ridiculously crazy yet endearing. My particular favorite episode of this entire show is the series where Stimpy gets really bloated, and he thinks he's pregnant. And then he farts, and it becomes a fart cloud, and he thinks it's his kid. So he adopts a fart cloud as a baby, and then the episode is consisting of Ren trying to convince him that it's a fart and not a baby. It's amazing. So yeah, I loved this show when I grew up. It was wild. It was out there, but it was one of the shows I watched with my brother. Actually, ironically enough, I remember, because my brother's a lot older than me, and I remember him enjoying it as well. When and that's always a sign of a good thing, because my brother is more than 10 years older than me, and it's always a good sign of when you can sit down as almost adult, because my brother's never really grown up. Sorry if you're out there, Simon, I know you listen. But yeah, he never really grew up, and I remember him watching this with me, and us really enjoying both of it. So it's always a good mark of a TV show when you can watch it as a kid and an adult and still enjoy it. I would put it at a B. I would put it at a B grade. Yeah. I don't know whether you have any opinions on this one, Zane. I know this was one of mine that I put in there.
I vaguely remember it. It's weird stuff. Like, I remember one thing I remember is, like, there was a man, and he was like, "You've got soft hands, and their hands are like sparkling clean." And he's like, "These are real hands," and his hands were like a mountain range.
I used to love that, because they used to have this like amazing, like, the animation was like this cool standard animation that was pretty smooth. It was pretty all right. And then they whenever things like that would happen, they would cut to like a still, like it was like a still picture, but it would be like this horrific detailed picture. And it was, like you said, it'd be like horrible craggy hands with like weird mountain ranges coming out of it and stuff. Yeah, but I used to love that so much.
Time and effort, because like you said, it's super detailed, super colored compared to the rest of the episode.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it.
In a weird way, this kind of reminds me of a precursor to like your SpongeBob's, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the same animators and designers worked on SpongeBob. I'm gonna say this right now, guys. None of these shows are gonna get a D, just for the record. There's no way in hell any of these are getting a D, because we handpicked these, and there's not a chance they're gonna get a D. But yes, I compared to the other stuff that's on this list, I can concede 100% that Ren and Stimpy is not as good as some of the other things on there. For me, it has a special place in my heart, and I'm more than happy to debate with Zane whether it goes in a B or a C. But for me, it's a B.
No, I'm happy to put it in a B.
All right, Zane, you pick what's next. Go on.
I am going to go for Reboot.
Reboot.
One of the early sort of CGIs. I guess, what else can I say about it? It was a weird time, because there was nothing else that looked like it at the time. I guess it must have taken months to animate a single episode, let alone a whole season. From memory, I think there was about 3 seasons.
There was 4 seasons.
Was it 4 seasons?
Mm-hmm.
I know there was a few TV specials to kind of round up the end.
Yeah, so Reboot has a really weird history about it, because it's so the first 2 seasons were not super popular. Like, the first season hit, and it was kind of a very muddled show, and it didn't get a lot of reception in a positive way. It was like, oh, the animation is amazing for the time, and it looks really good, but like not really interested in it so much. And then the second season managed to get some traction, but still the ratings were a bit meh. And then there was some issues with the studio that designed it, and there was some change around, and there was some behind the scenes machinations that made either a change to the writers' room or a change to the animators. I can't remember what it was. And then season 3 happened. Season 3 is easily my favorite season of this show. And then I think because it was done by a Canadian, like a French Canadian animating company or something like that, and something went wrong, and so there was a gap of like a couple of years between series 3, and then I think I think you might be right. I think it was a couple of specials, but they did classify that as season 4. So season 4, I think, is a couple of extended episodes, but they are like bunched together as a season. I think the story was interesting. The idea of living inside a computer and being this internal city world that gets disrupted by this game that appears every now and again from the user who's doing it.
Yeah.
And then it was one of the first shows that kind of also, from a kid's perspective, I guess, introduced the concept of what the internet is like and the World Wide Web. Because obviously the internet was created in the 90s, guys, I believe, maybe the late 80s. Oh god, that's I'm getting into work. Hang on, I'm pretty sure it was invented in the 90s. Anyway, but in season 3, the whole idea is that Enzo, who's one of the main characters in it, gets sucked up by this game and goes off into the World Wide Web, and it becomes kind of like a weird version of Quantum Leap, where each leap could be his last, and he can find his way home. And that series for me is the one that sticks in my mind the most, because you had instead of it just being like all about this like one mega city, which was kind of it was detailed, but it was kind of, you knew what it was going to look like. It would all look the same kind of thing. Suddenly the animation was kind of thrown out, and you'd suddenly have like swamp worlds and like desert worlds and medieval worlds and all this other kind of stuff. And it just, it really showed off what the animators could do. Mm-hmm. God forbid how much it cost them. It probably cost them an absolute fortune. And obviously this was I believe it was the final work of Tony Jay, the famous voice actor Tony Jay, who was Megabyte, the baddie Megabyte. This was the last thing he did before he died, I think. It's great. I love Reboot. What are your thoughts on it, Zane? I'm sorry, I've taken over.
No, great explanation. I loved Reboot. The whole idea. I love Bob, who was this character who protected Megacity and was always the game character that the user played as. And like you rightly said, like one day he lost and the game took Bob away. So Megacity was out a guardian.
It's like, yeah. I think it was Megabyte that beat him actually and took him away.
Oh,
Enzo loses the game and gets taken away. That's why Enzo gets taken away. But yeah, Bob just gets like his ass kicked by Megabyte.
So yeah, it was amazing, and again, some great action figures off the back of it. Like you said, I really liked Enzo because it was one of those weird things as well. And sometimes you see this in anime where the young audience identifies with the young character. So just like Enzo, you like Bob and everything else. And then you see Enzo become the older character because he goes around calling himself Matrix with an eye patch and a beard and stuff.
That's the thing though. Enzo was annoying. Matrix was cool.
So that was really cool. And I've just had a quick look. Season 4 was the TV specials, and they had 30-minute long episodes.
That was it. Yeah, because it was about Glory, wasn't it? Like the Glory, the virus or whatever it was, who was taking over the entire web.
Yeah.
That was good, man.
A great series.
It was unfortunate because they did try to bring this back again after series 4, and there was it was a weird kind of reboot, but like it mixed live action people with CGI, and it was awful. It was really bad, and unfortunately it killed off the Reboot franchise. They haven't done it since, but I would love to see a rebirth of Reboot, a reboot of Reboot, and because with today's CGI they could make it look insane. Like it would look so good. Bearing in mind this was the inception of CGI on television, and like no disrespect to it, but like you can see better CGI nowadays in Doctor Who. And it's like that goes to tell you the difference with what it was like then versus what it's like now. So they could really do something very impressive with this IP today. I'm tempted to put it in me speaking personally, I'm happy to debate it with you, Zane, but I'm tempted to put this at an A, just in terms of the development of technology and what they did with the series for the time, as well as the storytelling, because the storytelling is excellent, and you really should, if you're a fan of if you're a fan of 90s cartoons or good 90s cartoons that were had interesting stories in them, give Reboot a try, guys. It really is worth it. Stick with it until at least season 3 is the mutts nuts, so to speak, in England. For me personally, that's where it's at. But you say it's an A as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It was so memorable as well. Like again, because the type of animation, and B, the storytelling, and it didn't play down to its audience neither. Do you know what I mean? It didn't kind of like.
Yeah.
There's some shows that kind of do that, and this
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
solid throughout.
All right. Well, let's move on. Now, I think we should mix up some variation here because there's some of these shows that I'm going to put lower down the rankings as opposed to
Yeah.
others, which I'm going to put very, very, very high in the rankings from my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So it's your choice. Should we go with DC or Marvel next?
Let's go Marvel because we've already done
Marvel.
the DC one. Yeah.
Let's do X-Men.
Okay.
What the hell can we say about 1990s X-Men that has not been said already? So the X-Men, it was, I think, a lot of people's gateway drug into Marvel in the 90s. And
it's not. It's the other one on this list.
Yes, definitely, 100%. It's so difficult because they basically in the early 90s, obviously Marvel as a company were in a lot of trouble. They were in a lot of difficulty, and in an effort to stave off bankruptcy, they basically sold the movie rights to their characters to loads of different companies, which is why we got into that whole situation with Fox having the X-Men and Sony having Spider-Man, etc., etc. But cartoon rights and comic rights were still with Marvel. So in an effort to make some cash quick off of these rights, they fired off a load of cartoons at once. So we had the Iron Man cartoon, we had the Fantastic Four cartoon, we had a Hulk cartoon, and then the two most popular cartoons by far were the X-Men and Spider-Man, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
So the X-Men cartoon, interestingly, it kind of the opening episode kind of follows a similar path as the first X-Men movie, in the sense of we focus on Jubilee, whereas they focus on Rogue in the X-Men movie, but focus on her progressing powers and her evolving powers. Was Jubilee created for the cartoon?
Ooh, good question.
I don't know, because I know that Dazzler was around before that, but I can't remember if she was made for the cartoon. Well, whilst you're looking at that, this show does so much and gets so deep into the mythos of X-Men. Really, it creates some of the most iconic looks for some of the most iconic characters ever. When you think of Apocalypse, you think of the big blue Apocalypse and what he looks like in this show. That's what you naturally think of. When you think of Beast, I always think of the big blue Beast with the pants from this show. When you think of Wolverine, like, okay, now it's a little bit different with Hugh Jackman, but like you would think the yellow spandex with the blue pants, like it's just a natural thing. And the thing that was really good about this show was that it didn't dumb down anything. You still had those romantic storylines between Gambit and Rogue, where there was always that awkwardness of the fact that Rogue couldn't touch him, but he didn't care. He still wanted to touch her because, Gambit's a perv. You had serious storylines like the Dark Phoenix saga. They actually did that. They explored it fully in this. You had some really warped storylines like Proteus, like Moira McTaggart's son, and the warping of reality and stuff like that. As far as the voice acting is concerned, I mean, some of the most iconic voice acting, I think, of any cartoon ever. I think the only thing that rivals it is probably the Batman cartoons, which we'll talk about. Cathal J. Dodd as Wolverine was, I mean, he's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Chris Potter, who plays Gambit, I can't think of another voice coming out of Gambit now when I read the comics. What's her name? Lenora Zan, I think it is, who plays Rogue. Again, same.
Oh,
I can't picture anyone else like it. The voice in my head, Catherine Disher, who's Jean Grey, just like that really soft but kind of like emotional voice. I get it's great. Not to mention George Boozer, who is Beast. Again,
yeah.
like a mark of a good cartoon is when it feels like especially if it's based around a comic, is like feeling like the panels are coming to life, and this thing is it's literally perfectly done. And they don't shy away from doing serious content either. Sentinels are genuinely terrifying in this as well. They make Sentinels properly scary before they just become tin cans and Wolverine shreds them to pieces. I've done a lot of talking there, Zane. What are your memories of the X-Men cartoon?
It's like you said, it's the adaptations of I guess a lot of this was based on Claremont's run. So Days of Future Past. So you got to see Bishop animated and come in. I guess it's just the team in general as well, because the only one I always felt was kind of weird to be in the team was Morph. And somehow he was Wolverine's best friend.
Well, who's not in the team after the first series, as he gets nuked by the Sentinels.
And then Wolverine's sad and angry.
Yeah, but it's good because that again, they don't hold their punches because it's a kids show. That set the tone where it's like, oh yeah, characters can die in this, man. Like characters can be wiped out. Wake up, kids! It's Morph's gone. Bye bye. By the way, I just wanted to take it back. I apologize. This was not Jubilee's first appearance. Jubilee's first appearance was created by Chris Claremont in Uncanny X-Men. So I apologize. It wasn't. She didn't first appear in the show. So that's my apologies.
Nice. No, that's okay. It's like you said, a lot of things were done right with this, and it was incredible. Some of the animation, it could be a little bit hokey, but for the time, it was. Nothing else was, dare I say, pushing the boundaries. And again, the colourful cast. So you had Storm, who almost felt OP at the time because she could command weather, lightning so much.
Storm is OP. I'm just going to say it right now. Storm, just in general, is an OP character. Like, I'm sorry that there's like you look at Thor. Thor is a god of thunder. He can command thunder whenever he wants. Storm controls all the elements, all of
them. I really loved Cyclops' outfit in this. I just really like it's a bit of a cliche, but all the different pouches and stuff. Funny enough, I've got a figure. That's one of the figures behind me on that shelf. Is Cyclops.
It's the iconic looks of them, like Jubilee's leather. I think her yellow trench coat and everything like that. The way it looks in that book and in that comics, in that cartoon, has been like mimicked in the comics, ever since, with the glasses as well. With the it's so iconic. Those looks are so iconic. They even put them in the Apocalypse movie, pretty much. When you watch the Apocalypse movie. Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Jubilee in that are pretty much exactly what they look like in this show. That's not a coincidence. That's because it is some of the most popular designs in X-Men history.
Was it Jim Lee's design? Did that come first before, or was that after the cartoon, do you think?
Oh, now you're asking a question. I don't know.
Because I know he worked on the Claremont run, but I wasn't sure if that was all him or if that was Fox Kids.
This was
Fox Networks.
This was before. So Jim Lee worked. He worked on the X-Men during September 1990 to June 1991.
Okay.
He was the main artist for Uncanny X-Men at time of one of Marvel's high-profile titles. He served in the position from issue 267 to 277 from September 1990 to June 1991. He also worked with writer Chris Claremont and inker Scott Williams.
It would have been close because this original release was October 31st, 1992.
Oh, there you go then. Maybe he had some. He may well have had some creative input into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jim Lee entered the industry in 1987. So that was one of his first main gigs. Obviously, we now know him for like his iconic DC artwork, but like that was one of his main gigs. Was in the X-Men. One of his first main gigs, I should say. So yeah, interesting. Maybe. I mean, Claremont. I know that Claremont had a say in some of the storylines for this, because they do Days of Future Past in this, which is amazing as well. They modify it because Bishop is not originally part of the Days of Future Past, so they do modify the story quite a bit. But like, yeah, it's great. It's just, I love this show so much. I love this show. Did they ever do Onslaught in this show?
I don't believe so.
Because that is one character that I really would love to see on screen, and they've never really, just the combined, like, because it's just a mad villain. It's such a mad villain. Like, it really is. You know the guy I mean, right? The merge of So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Onslaught is the he is a psionic energy villain made up of the consciousnesses of Magneto and Professor Xavier. Because there is
go on, explain it.
All right. So there is a point in the comics where Magneto gets very annoyed at Wolverine and decides to strip all the adamantium off of his entire body in an extremely painful way, which is why in the comic run in the 90s, Wolverine kind of goes weirdly feral and has bone armor. Bone claws. It's because Magneto stripped all the adamantium off of his body. Professor Xavier gets extremely upset at Magneto for doing this and wipes Magneto's mind and causes him a lot of brain injury with that. In doing that, part of Magneto's evil conscience enters Professor Xavier's mind, and the two things merge together, and Onslaught is born. And because of how powerful Charles Xavier is, his personality goes bye-bye, and Onslaught becomes a creature of pure psionic armor. It's one of the first Marvel events that I remember, because it literally bled into everything. Because what happens after that is Onslaught wants the body of Franklin Richards, who is arguably the most powerful mutant ever to exist in Marvel. And so the whole story is about how everyone has to try and stop Onslaught because he's so ridiculously OP.
That's the Axis event?
No, you're thinking of Red Skull Onslaught, which is, let's not go into that.
Okay.
That's a whole nother bag of fish.
No, I got the perfect sound for that.
Love that sound effect. I can only apologize, guys. Headphone warning. Anyway, sorry, that was a massive tangent that I went on. Did I do a good job explaining it?
Yeah, I say so. Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
Well, I look forward to the angry comments saying, "You forgot this. You messed this up." It'll probably be from Drac. Drac will be the one. He'll probably, our sometimes regular co-host Drac will write and go, "Stop getting it wrong." Anyway. X-Men cartoon. It's easily an A. It's whether or not it's an S in your eyes. That's the question. Bearing in mind, this was a gateway drug to comics for a lot of people. It's, for me personally, it's an A at least. But like for me personally, it's not an S for me. As far as comics are concerned, we'll talk about the other Marvel property next. For me, the other Marvel property was my. This was my childhood cartoon. Like I loved X-Men, don't get me wrong, but I only really appreciated X-Men when I grew up. I watched some of the X-Men shows when I was younger, but it was when I got older, especially recently. I've gone back through the first couple of series because they're all on Disney Plus now. So I've gone back through the first couple of series of X-Men recently, and they're great. But from a 90s nostalgia comic point of view, the next Marvel show was it was like crack for kids. This next one for me, it was phenomenal.
What I was just going to add to that as well is the only reason I wouldn't put it as an S is I love the opening sequence, and it's a shame that animation doesn't follow through into the episode. Considering the animation for this one does.
Yeah. Not just that, but they mix it up with CGI stuff in Spider-Man as well.
That's true. Yeah.
They
With
add
all
in
the
CGI
buildings
elements.
and stuff, right?
Yeah, not just buildings. They do lots of weird kind of crazy CGI bits and bobs with it. They were clearly playing around with the techniques to see if we could make a fully CGI show, which they do later on. Actually, they do make a fully CGI Spider-Man show, which is also excellent, by the way, guys. But the show we're going to talk about today, because there's been a lot of Spider-Man shows. Arguably, there has been a Spider-Man show that surpassed this, which is the Spectacular Spider-Man, but that was made in the 2000s. So we're not going to talk about that today. We are talking about the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, what can I say about this show? This and the Batman animated show are combined with naughty reading Batman versus Predator when I was a lot younger than I should have read it.
Yeah.
These are responsible for me being into comic books today,
Yeah.
and being interested in Marvel superheroes. This Spider-Man show was so good, so good that for me personally, I can still watch this show today, and I have been watching this show. And I went to sleep watching this show the other night because I fell asleep on the sofa because it's such a comfort show to me to watch. This thing, like, how do I phrase this? So similar to the X-Men, right? This is one of those things where I now, in my head, when I think of Peter Parker's voice, I don't think of any of the actors who have played him in the films. I don't think of Maguire. I don't think of Garfield. I don't even think of Tom Holland. I think of the actor who played him in this, whose name I cannot remember, and I will find out whose name it was.
Daniel Barnes?
Yes, it was Christopher Daniel Barnes. That was it. Yeah. Yes, you were correct. Just amazing, amazing voice, like the actors that you had in this. I mean, Mark Hamill's in this. Like, Mark Hamill was Hobgoblin.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's fantastic. You know, you've got Roscoe Lee Brown, who is Kingpin. Like, just incredible. Like, so many good. Like, what's truly extraordinary about this as well is before, like, during the same time that he was doing The Simpsons, Hank Azaria was in this show. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Hank Azaria is Eddie Brock.
Oh, wow.
I know. I know. It's mad, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, we should probably talk about the actual show itself. So, Spider-Man, this is Spider-Man not at university. This is a Spider-Man post-university, although he still does go to, he's still a kind of like, he works kind of at MCU. MCU? Not MCU. ESU. Sorry. Empire State University. He works there as a science assistant to Dr. Connors. And then, like, they don't, he's not high school. This is university Spider-Man. And he's been bitten by the radioactive spider. We kind of just go straight in with, like, how Spider-Man was Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man being Spider-Man. There's so many elements that play in here from the comics. Obviously, Kingpin being the ultimate mastermind of everything normally in the background. Certainly from a city level perspective. Like, they cover in the first season a lot of his iconic villainry. Sort of Mysterio, Scorpion, Kingpin, I've obviously mentioned. And then I think they end season 1 with Venom, don't they? I think it's Venom at the end of season 1.
Let me just have a quick look, because I know a lot of season 1 was based on the Spider Slayer.
Oh yes, that's right. With the Smythe. Is that season 1? I can't remember. Yeah, I know that it's Spencer and Alistair Smythe, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is it season 2 that is Venom then? I always get confused, because this is what the problem with shows that go into syndication is. Once they get repeated so many times, it all blends together.
So towards the end of season 1, there is an episode, the Alien Costume part.
Okay, that was it.
So there's a part 1, 2, and 3 where Eddie Brock has the wall covered in newspaper clippings. Spider-Man turns Venom.
Yeah. That's the Venom saga. Yeah, that is amazing. That whole run. So that doesn't just introduce Venom in that one. That also introduces Rhino as well as Shocker as well. They both make the first time appearance in the cartoon in that 3-parter. So you get Rhino, Shocker, and then Venom is the final guy, because it's the whole Black Suit saga where Spider-Man goes dark. It's just I don't know what else I can say about this show. The animation is superb. It blends a weird kind of CGI. Interestingly enough, at the time, in order for the show to get syndication and get on TV, in these shows, I think it's the same with X-Men as well, you'll notice with a lot of these shows that due to the way that the television rights were and the way that television access was in the 90s, for kids' TV shows, they weren't allowed to use real guns. So on this show, all the gangsters and all the mobsters and all the baddies in it, they fire laser pistols.
Yes.
And whenever the laser pistols make contact, they stun people, but they don't necessarily kill them. And that was like you'll notice it in a lot of cartoons. You'll be like, why are they using real guns? Why have they got these future tech guns? It's because that's the compromise that had to be made in order for them to be able to do it.
I'm pretty sure they had a similar thing with Superman. Adventures. It was all lasers. None of it was.
I don't think they do with Batman, which was what is interesting.
No.
We'll talk about it when Batman the Animated Show comes. But yeah, that was the interesting thing about it. But certainly for Marvel shows, they couldn't do that. Speaking of like guns and fights and stuff, the fight sequences in the Spider-Man show are amazing. Like when he's fighting villains, it's so well done. And as you said, the animation is incredibly smooth. You know, that there's the whole fight sequence with Venom I'm thinking of in that saga when they're fighting on the roof. And like there is a little bit of, you do sometimes get a little bit of the animation clipping where it's like they're replaying the same animation again, but it's in a different scene. Just to kind of, I would assume just to save money. But like things like when he's fighting Scorpion and Scorpion's got acid, like he can fire acid out of his tail. And like the melting effects when the acid hits like water towers and stuff, where you see like the animation like just flow through and then the whole thing fall. Like it's animation like that where it's like, mwah, it's so good. Like it's so chef's kiss. Like Hydra Man is another example.
I was just about to talk about Hydra Man. That sequence. So 2 sequences that always stick out, and they're in the opening, but it's the sequence with Doc Ock where he's running and there's almost like those crates and he's weaving in between the arms. Perfect. And the Hydra Man fight as well, because there's a sequence where Hydra Man almost does this thing where he almost bursts up, like he opens up his arms and there's like 2 giant water fountains just burst out.
Yes,
and
the
amazing
hydrants
like
in the
zoom
park,
out wide shot. I love it so much. It's just a amazing sequence.
The other thing about the Hydra fight as well is how Spider-Man beats him in that, which is really awesome. Which is when, so basically MJ actually leads Bench, is it Maury Bench? I think his name. Leads Hydra Man into the middle of the city, away from any water sources, onto a roof during the heat. So he evaporates basically. And like they do the animation where it's like because he's barely being able to hold himself together, they change like the color palette and stuff on him, and it looks really weird and it looks great. And then when he goes to dive for Spider-Man, like he goes after Spider-Man and just hits the floor and just blows into like
and
it's like it's so good, it's so well done. The interesting thing that I thought about this show as well was the direction they take it in after the second season, because it turns more away from focusing on Spider-Man and starts to introduce other heroes from across the Marvel universe. So we get episodes that include Blade. We get episodes that include Doctor Strange. Punisher. Yeah. We also get the actual ending. Well, not the ending of that show, but we also get an episode that is Captain America and his battle with the Red Skull across time. Yeah. Which was interesting. And a special appearance by the character Whizzer, which I thought was great. It's because they don't, it's weird because they don't actually say Avengers because Captain
No.
America's got this weird team of like 40s heroes, and I'm like, why have you done that? It's weird. It's like consists of like the Wizard and Flamo and all these other kind of people. I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that. I'd be interested to see what the rights were about that at the issue. But this show very famously, well, I say famously, but it ends unfortunately on a cliffhanger, but it does end with Secret Wars, where the Beyonder basically sends a bunch of heroes to a world that is like almost like a battle world, basically, and they have to work together. And then the truth is revealed that Spider-Man is the ultimate destroyer of all realities, much like in No Way Home. Yeah, you get I think that's it might not be the first introduction of him, but the ultimate villain is Spider Carnage, basically. When the Carnage symbiote merges with Peter Parker in an alternative reality. And then we get a precursor to No Way Home, where he has to work with loads of other Spider-Men in order to take down Spider Carnage.
The Web Warriors.
Web Warriors, that was it. Yes.
I loved that so much because it was the introduction of Ben Reilly, and that blew my mind. I was like, oh my god. The armor spider suit as well, where he had that whole silver suit.
Billionaire playboy Peter Parker, yeah.
I don't think he's in that multiverse episode, but I remember the part where he grew extra arms, like he tried to find a cure.
No, it is. Yeah, he is in that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the mutagen saga or whatever it's called, where he's metamorphosing into a spider, and he grows 6 arms. And they basically have the 6-arm Spider-Man in that last episode, and I think he says something like, "I know what your deal is," kind of thing. Yeah, he is in that. Yeah.
There's just so many.
Because there's a bit, he is in that because there's a bit later on when they're trying to infiltrate that place, and he loses control of it and turns into the man spider.
Okay, yeah,
and that's what they have to get rid of him, and it's hilarious. I love that scene. You just made me remember that one scene because it's hilarious because it's the Beyonder who's trying to use all of his strength to help them stop this horrible, the end of all reality. And he gets the Beyonder just goes, I'll use all my strength to save them. So he teleports the man spider. Like, you literally have the scene where he's just like, he looks like he's having a poo, and he's just like, and then the man spider gets teleported to him, and the first thing that happens is man spider just jumps on Beyonder, and then he just teleports away. I'm just like, what happened there? Poor Beyonder. He's got French kissed by the man spider.
All 6 of his arms and eyes.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, this show's amazing. I'm sorry, we spent a lot of time on Spider-Man. I apologize, but my God, this show is fantastic. Yeah, it definitely deserves an S. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
We've got 5 to go, Zane, and we're only halfway through. We've been going for a while.
Oh God. Where do you want to go next?
Well, I definitely want to. I know what I want to end on, and I think you know what I want to end on. So let's go with some slightly less known one. Let's go with Captain Planet to begin with.
Okay.
I remember Captain Planet not fondly, to be honest with you. It was fine. It was all right. The animation was a bit rubbish. It was basically. Well, I'll tell you what. I've done a lot of talking, Zane. You talk about Captain Planet.
Captain Planet was. I guess in a weird way, it was a cartoon to try and promote recycling and the benefits of nature, and a way to educate kids more than anything. And like best practices, again, when it comes to recycling, cut beer can holders. I don't know why I use that as an example, but
why either, but
yeah. But I guess the main draw was this is that there's 5 different kids, including what have I got that wrong already?
No, you're right. It's just I'll explain why I think that's ridiculous. Now carry on.
Okay. 5 children who have these power rings, and each ring is supposed to represent a element, except for the 5th one, which is supposed to represent love or heart.
Yes.
It just so happens he has a great relationship with animals as well. when
He's
they
all part of that boy.
when they combine the power of the rings, they summon Captain Planet, who's this world defender.
He's
dare I
Superman,
say.
basically, without the laser
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah. He flies, super strength, everything.
It's an interesting look.
Does he? Yeah, that's a powerful look, with a mullet and a flat top.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a reason why he has to be summoned. You wouldn't want to go out looking like that.
No. But then I'm trying to remember, does he use the element powers himself? I don't think he does.
No, he's just kind of like super strong and like has like, I think does he have ray beams or something like that? I can't remember if he does or not, but like, no, I think he's just, the idea is he's just the incarnation of Mother Earth, isn't he? But just like, he's ultra strong kind of thing.
In a masculine way.
Yeah, he's like a masculine swamp thing. All right, so here's my main problem with the concept of this show, right? And this is with my old man human hat on.
Okay.
Right, you got these powers, right? Power rings, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got earth, wind, fire, and water. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, say for instance, there's a natural disaster, and there's a forest fire that's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in that scenario, one of those rings is completely useless. Unless you really buy into the adage of "I'll fight fire with fire." So right there, completely pointless. Where it's like, there's a forest fire going on in California. Who have we got near there? Fire? Who else? Quick, we'll put it out with the power of love.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a little bit. I'm just kind of like, well, in the wrong scenarios, those things are useless. And then it's like, also, all 5 of them basically have to be near each other in order to get Captain Planet out. What if one of them falls out with the other? They don't like each other anymore. It's like, I'm not seeing Bill anymore. There's no way I'm going to meet up with that guy. It's like, yeah, but we need you. We need you for Captain Planet. Listen, mate. I don't care how bad the situation is. You don't need that mullet, boy. And I'm definitely not getting near Bill. So just deal with
Unless
yourself.
Bill apologizes.
Yeah, but you're water and it's a fire. We need you. Listen, mate. You should have thought about
that. I've just reading up. I didn't realize this. There was a character. I guess it was the narrator called Gaia, who's voiced by Whoopi Goldberg.
I didn't know that. well, let's put this show up into the S.
In seasons 1 to 3.
I'm gonna say this was based on the animation as well. The animation was not great for this. I thought it was a bit ropey as well. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. It's not awful. Like it's fun, but like it's a C. I think I'm not. I don't. What do you think, Zane? Am I wrong in that?
No, I think for the time it was fun. There was eco villains, and I remember there being like cool vehicles as well. Again, I'm thinking from a toy line sort of thing. I think I even had an Captain Planet action figure. But,
really?
Yeah. But yeah, it's it wasn't in the same league as Spider-Man.
No, that is definitely correct. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so well, let's move on then, I guess. Should we do the Biker Mice from Mars next?
Yeah, why not?
So this. I know this is one of your favorites when you were growing up.
Yes.
The thing that surprised me the most about Biker Mice from Mars was the cast listing of people who's in Biker Mice from Mars that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So, I mean, first of all, there's Ron Paulson, who is Fred. So Ron Paulson is probably, so he is one of those ones where it's like he's got one of the most famous voices in the world that you wouldn't necessarily recognize because he manages to do such an incredible job of being multiple different people. So he is Wacko from the Animaniacs. He is Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. He's in Hercules. I think he's one of the main voices in Hercules, the movie. He's also in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Actually, he's Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Raphael, yeah.
Yes. So he's amazing in this. You've got Brad Garrett, who's Grease Pit in this. He is the guy from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
I can't remember what his name is in that, but he's in that. You got
he's
Brian
the older
Austin,
brother, isn't he?
That's it. Yeah, he's the older brother. You got Brian Austin Green in this, who's Rimfire. I mean, he's been in loads of stuff, and you got Mark Hamill again popping up. Would you like to tell me what? Do you know what Mark Hamill's name is in this?
No.
Oh God. Let me find out.
I didn't know that.
It's Pierre something. Let me find out. Hold on. Talk about this yourself, because I know that you love this show.
I didn't realize this until just now. Stan Lee was an executive on this.
Okay, here we go. Do you want to know the name of the bad guy that Mark Hamill played in Biker Mice from Mars?
Yeah, go for it.
Brace yourself.
Okay.
Pierre Fluffbottom. You're welcome.
Oh, Mark.
Anyway, yes, Biker Mice from Mars. You talk, Zane. You go.
This was well. There's. I look at this with a bit of rose tinted glasses because I loved this as a kid. It was high energy. It was about aliens that also looked like mice. They they were almost like rebels in a weird way because the whole idea is that these fish-like aliens had conquered Mars and they were freedom fighters that had come to Earth to stop the invasion.
Such a weird premise.
It is a very weird premise. And they had these futuristic bikes that could almost do anything, like shoot rockets and fly and all sorts. But I really like the chemistry of the three characters, Vinny, Modo, and Throttle. In my eyes, they were amazing. I know since watching it, it had like a super masculinity sort of identity, like super buff mice and like
yeah,
you know, sort of thing. But at the time,
they were hitting the Hulk on the Hogan scale.
They were very, very Hulk Hogan on the scale. But at the time, there was loads of action figures and shows like this. You know, we spoke about Street Sharks before this episode.
Yes.
Another sort of super masculine sharks, super buff sharks,
sexy sharks,
fought crime, but also did extreme sports. So yeah, I really loved this as a kid. So
also did extreme sports,
like roller skating.
I know, I fucking love it.
Extreme
blading. Thanks very much. They don't call it roller skating. It's blading.
Did I say roller skating? How dare I?
How dare you? How dare you? Yeah. I remember there being like it was like I always get this confused. So there's another cartoon which we didn't talk about, which I was going to talk about, but I know that you're not. You were a fan of it, but not a mega fan. But the Toxic Avengers, I always got the baddies confused in that and this, because they were like these weird alien fish people in that. And in Toxic Avengers, it was weird alien smog people who wanted to turn the world into smog and pollute everything. So I always get those baddies confused. But no, I enjoyed the Biker Mice from Mars. I remember having the action figures. A lot of these cartoons as well, we can think back to action figures from the decade. Because I remember I had a lot of Spider-Man toys when I was younger, and Batman toys, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys, which I'm assuming we'll talk about soon. And the Biker Mice from Mars, I remember having quite a few of their the little bikes and stuff like that. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I can't think of like a particular episode that really like stands out for me. That's the only issue I have with the show, where it's like all the episodes kind of blur into one. Whereas with Reboot, with X-Men, with Spider-Man, I can think of individual episodes. It's the same with Captain Planet. I can't really remember an individual Captain Planet episode at all, apart from when he like, you know, stops the world from being on fire.
Yeah, there's it had a weird sort of seasons. So for example, the first season had 13 episodes. second season had 39, and then the third season had 13 episodes as well.
Wasn't like the last season like many years after the second as well? It wasn't like the third season in like 2006 and something like
that. There is a sort of, they did try to bring it back essentially. There was like a mini reboot in the early 2000s, and some of it was CGI and stuff. But I don't think the toy sales were as good as the 90s, or it was one of those things, because like Cartoon Network has this thing about toy sales. If it does great toy sales, then it will go on. But yeah, I don't think it did incredibly well as the early 90s.
As a lover of this show, Zane, it's down to you to place it.
It had great animation as well. I
think you're thinking of a B or a C, aren't you?
I'm thinking B, just because of the character interactions.
Okay.
But like you say, the overarching story isn't as memorable as, say, X-Men to make it an A. So that's where my head is at. But again, if you feel like it was a C, then I'll probably put it in a C.
I'll go with go with a B.
Yeah.
I'll go with your verdict on that. I think the next few is going to be A and above. So we need some Bs. We need some filler in B.
Okay.
Let's go with Turtles next.
Funny, in the UK, it was censored, wasn't it? So we know.
You mean the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles?
Yeah.
Yeah, as we know them over in the UK.
As we know them. And yes. Michelangelo without any nunchucks.
He had nunchucks? Yes. So for those of you who are not aware, in the UK, there was a censorship ban against violent weaponry such as nunchuckers in the 90s. And so Michelangelo did not have any nunchucks. He just had the power of fists and pizza and obviously party time. And it was also deemed that ninjas were extremely violent and brought up violent connotations for young children. And so the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were renamed Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles in this country. I still have a pop-up book from when I was a kid where they are called Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles on the front cover. And it's an excellent pop-up book for kids. Man, this show. The show that launched 1 million merchandises.
I was going to say the merchandise around this.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say that this show for kids of our generation, this show is what we grew up playing with, because man, there were so many. I still to this day, I've got him somewhere. I don't know where he is, but I've got Donatello in a trench coat.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's great. It's such a great little toy as well. I remember some of the so let's go into the show before we talk about the merch. So some mutant gunk gets poured down a sewer onto a rat and 4 turtles that have been dumped in the drain, and they become the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it is their job to save New York from the evil of the Foot Clan, as run by Shredder, who we soon find out is working for the Dimension X alien known as Krang. And it is a weekly episodic show with some really horrible episodes in this. I forgot about the episode where Baxter Stockman becomes the Fly. Holy crap! I forgot about that. That's really horrible transformation. But yeah, what can I say about the Turtles? Again, we've talked about the fact that Rob Paulson is in this as as Raphael. I mean, iconic voices again. Like I can't see any of these characters and not think about like in books and anything like that. I can't not hear the voices of those individual characters. Zane, what did you think of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Obviously, we had Uncle Phil as Shredder as well, which was,
Yes, yeah. James Avery was Uncle Phil. He was Uncle Phil, I guess.
He was Uncle Phil in life and death.
But more impressively, he was Shredder in this.
God God, that would have been amazing. Can you imagine if he was against the turtles? The turtles' ultimate enemy is Uncle Phil.
Yeah, this cartoon
By the
was
way,
incredible.
I should point out, people might say to us, "Oh, but it started in the 80s. It started in the 80s." Yes, we know the show technically started in 1987, but it ran well into the 90s. Well into. I think it finished in 1996. So, this show is. I'm sorry, but like it definitely falls into the category of 90s cartoons because the popularity of it as well exploded after the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry. Carry on, buddy.
I'm trying to think what else to say. Really, is it 9 seasons?
10 seasons.
10 seasons.
10 seasons.
Christ.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fantastic. It was very slapstick.
96 is when it ended. 96 is when it finished.
96 was when it ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very slapstick in terms of I don't think there was any sort of arching story throughout the entire seasons, was there? Besides Shredder and Dimension X.
Yeah, Krang and Dimension X. Like that, I think so. There was kind of a the overarching story was really Krang and Dimension X wanting to take over the world and opening a portal so that they could like merge the two realities together. And the only arc that I remember was when I can't remember what series it was, but basically one of the series ends with the Technodrome, which was Krang's big like mothership, weird, like amazing thing, that coming into the Earth like reality. So they lived underground in Earth, and Dimension X wasn't happening. And then the final episode of Turtles is the Turtles finally being able to shoot the Technodrome back to Dimension X, and sealing it off forever so that Krang will never be a problem again. So that was the only kind of arc they had, which was constantly trying to stop Krang from kind of getting his grubby little tentacles on Earth. I guess the show kind of got a bit more personal after the movie, I think, because they kind of linked some of the stuff in the movie up to it, but not really, because they tried to keep it separate. Casey Jones being iconic in this, like so many. April O'Neil in the yellow jumpsuit, that's still a famous look to this day. But as we alluded to earlier on, the real hit for this was the toys, man. Like the toys that came out of this was just insane. Like I think you would find it hard pressed to find a kid's bedroom when you were younger, of our age, of our generation's age, that didn't have some kind of Turtles toy in it. I was very lucky as a kid growing up, in that like my parents were extremely generous when it came to the Turtles toys, because I had the van. Everyone wanted the van. Nice. I had the van.
Yeah.
I had a Technodrome. I actually managed to have the Technodrome once, and it had wheels and it moved. Like the whole thing moved. It was awesome.
There was the blimp as well, wasn't it? The blimp was probably one of the most sought after.
Yes.
Turtles toys, yeah.
And then it started to get kind of crazy. I remember having a Turtles monster truck. He actually did a Turtles monster truck, which was very cool. I'm not trying to brag, by the way. This is not it's a weird brag if I was trying to do it. But
weird flex.
Yeah, what a weird flex that is. I remember Mecha Donatello. Do you remember Mecha Donatello?
No, I don't.
Oh, that's great. I'll try to find a picture of it for you in a minute. He was in one of the episodes. Donatello built a robot, basically a robot Turtles to fight Shredder, I think it was. It looks amazing. I'll try and find it. But yeah, it was the toys where this was at, man. Like, the cartoon was good. Don't get me wrong, but the toys was where it was at. What do you remember about the show?
I just remembered they slightly changed up the bits and pieces, like the way they get mutated. So in this version, it's with a boy drops them down the sewer, an unnamed boy.
That was it, yeah.
And Splinter.
What a little he is to do that, honestly.
Splinter is a man before he's a rat.
Oh yeah, he is. You're right. You're right. That's the link to him and Shredder. He was like, wasn't he like his like like a friend of his or something, and then he gets betrayed.
Yeah. So let me just have a quick Google. Yoshi Hamato, and
Yoshi Hamato, because in the film, Yoshi Hamato is the rat's like owner.
Yes.
Because he learns all his moves off his owner, and then they show the little rat doing the moves. I loved it.
Where in this he is human, and I remember I think he gets banished by the Foot Clan.
Metalhead. That is the name of the turtle that I was thinking of. It's not Donatello. I'm sorry, it's not Robo Donatello. It's Metalhead. I will send a picture of it to you in just a second. That was the toy I had. Sorry. Go on, carry on.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick read. So his student, Oroku Saki, framed him for the attempted murder of a visiting master sensei, and had him exiled to New York, where Yoshi was forced to live in the sewers in shame and befriend the rats.
That was it. Yeah, I remember. Because I remember hearing Uncle Phil say, "No Swati." Yeah, this for me is way up there. I mean, it's probably an A. Where are you going? Oh, you opening those things I sent. That's it. I don't know whether you remember that from the show or not, but that was one of the ones that I had. I was like, "That's awesome." Fair enough. Fair enough. As far as the show's concerned, it's an A easily. It's whether you think it's an S or not. I think it's probably not an S. I think it's probably an A.
I'm sticking with an A as well. Yeah.
Okay. Which brings us to the end of this, which is the Batman.
The Batman.
Both of them in S. That's it. Move on. See ya. Okay. So, well, I mean, Jesus. Where do we even begin with Batman the animated series? I think this is probably the quintessential cartoon series for children of our generation. It was released in 1992, created by Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, or Radomski. I can never say his name. First time Kevin Conroy was Batman. First time Mark Hamill was the Joker. Just unbelievable, this show. So first series was kind of setting the scene for what they wanted to do with it. So a darker tone of a cartoon. Batman was didn't really have as many of the rogues gallery as you would expect. The animation was it's interesting because with shows like this where it's the same with Turtles, actually, where you see shows like this where the animation actually evolves over time.
Yeah.
So with Batman, it starts off a little bit janky in the same kind of respect of like Captain Planet kind of janky. First series is very kind of rough, but still nicely detailed. You get some interesting stories in the first season. A particular story that brings into my head is when Joker tries to steal Christmas. That's one of the first in the first series, it just goes from strength to strength. This show, the first couple of series is all about Batman and his crime fighting. It then introduces Robin, and it becomes the new adventures of Batman and Robin, and then expands out more of the Bat family. We get Batgirl in it later on. What I love the most about this series is that it stays true to the comic books, whilst forging its own identity. Iconic villains are reimagined yet identifiable. I'm thinking of people like Two-Face, where obviously you can't really show a horrifically scarred person, on kids' TV, but they redo the scarring with this horrible blue acidic nastiness, which looks almost as bad as as the actual thing. Joker can't kill people, but he can make them turn into these horrific, like almost ventriloquist doll-like faces from the Joker smiles, and it's almost worse than death kind of situation. So like all of the Batman the Animated Series was incredible in the sense of like what it could do with content that couldn't really be adult, but in some ways was actually more horrible than the real, than actually being the real thing. Like that Joker gas stuff is, I mean, he always had Joker gas, but like that's something. This show is so iconic that it bled into the comics. Harley Quinn was created in this show. Which is bizarre when you think about that. When you think about how much of what she is today.
Exactly. There's so much that this show has influence for the Batman mythos and other franchises from it. So, for example, this is the first time we actually get to see there's a distinct different in voice for Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Up to this, they'd always had the same voice where Conroy puts on a slightly gruffer voice when he's Batman, but when he's Bruce Wayne, he's light, he's charming, you could say, and everything else. So there is a distinct difference in performance, and this is the first time it happens.
It's almost like a slight femininity to his voice as well when he's like, not as in like he sounds like a lady, but like he definitely softens it for when he is Bruce Wayne. Like it's much more, you can hear the gruffness and masculinity of Batman coming through instead of like when he's Bruce Wayne, where it's much more like of a softer, like gentler, like, hey, I'm an everyday guy, and it's like it does come across, and it's subtle choices like that. And it's the other things like when I've seen interviews with Mark Hamill where he talks about being the Joker and the idea that I think a lot of people and a lot of representations of Joker, there was just one laugh, where it was just this kind of maniacal, always the same maniacal laughter. And Hamill brought to the idea of like, but there wouldn't be just one laugh. There would be loads of different laughs that would determine what his mood was. So there'd be like a mischievous laugh. There'd be like a evil laugh. There's like a
giggle as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there's like a giggle, exactly. And it's when he brings like all of those out and brings all those ranges to the table. It's just like, that is amazing. Like that's so cool for the level of detail that you're looking for. And it's weird that he almost wasn't the Joker. Like he was almost Batman.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he auditioned to be Batman. Like, so it's like he was almost not the Joker. Would have been a very different time. Oh God, what else can I say about this show?
There's a weird. How do I explain this? There's a weird sadness about certain episodes as well. So, for example, there's episodes like the Scarface, the ventriloquist. It's just like there's a certain sadness to stories like that. I distinctly remember the Pamela Isley episode where she's dating Harvey Dent and she's trying to like stop him from again buying land and building on it. Like every
sure not confusing this with Superman.
But she was scared that he would harm plants in his development and stuff. But anyway, there was a certain sadness to her story because again, she had like this noble purpose, but she was very villainous in her delivery of it.
I mean, ultimately, that's. I wonder if that is a knock-on effect of the Joker, because a lot of Batman's rogue galleries, much like Batman, they have an incredibly tragic backstory to them. Harvey Dent is the perfect example of that, where it's like, there's so much childhood trauma in him, and he's trying to do the right thing, and he's always trying to be noble, and it's this horrific thing that happens to him that brings out this darkness that he had from when he was a child and causes him to become Two-Face. It's not a happy tale, and they don't pull punches with it either. That is how they do it in the cartoon. It's just they kind of change it so that it's not as graphically I think instead of it being acid in the cartoon, it's a chemical explosion, I think, which catches him. Like, I seem to remember him lying off the side of a balcony, and it just gets exploded, and it scars the whole side of his face. Clayface is really horrible, like, creation in that, like, where because I remember it, like, as is classic in Shakespeare plays, the best action happens off screen, and it's sometimes the stuff they don't show you, which is almost more traumatic. Like, I remember the Basil Carlo's creation in this show is like, he gets in bad with the mob bosses, and he's using this like rejuvenation stuff to try and keep his looks, because he's
like
actor.
Skincare, isn't he?
And then like the gangsters catch him and they feed the stuff to him. They like they drown him in it, basically. And it has the knock-on effect of turning him into the stuff that he's putting on his face. But you don't see it cuts away, and you just see the shadows where they're like pouring the stuff onto his face, and you could hear the horrible like, it's like that's brutal stuff for like a kid's show, but it's like it's so well done.
I remember when Batman fights him and he defeats him by turning all these different TV screens on of all the roles he played as, and his face changes to each different role, and then it's kind of like an overload.
He overloads his clay face. But yeah, again, I mean, they did this show was so popular that they did several movies off of it, animated movies. I can't remember what the
Phantasm.
Phantasm, but then there's another one, there's a Mr. Freeze one.
Oh right, yeah.
Which one is that?
So there's Mask of the Phantasm.
I know there's another one. Bear with us, guys, whilst I just try and find.
There's a Batwoman one. Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero.
It is Sub-Zero, isn't it? Yeah.
Direct to video.
Oh, was it direct to video, was it? That must have been right after. Yeah, I know Mask of the Phantasm was like, wasn't that like, didn't that get nominated for a bunch of like awards and stuff because it was just so well done?
Yeah. 93 Mask of the Phantasm. Sub-Zero was 98.
Okay, so it was after the main show finished, just before they were doing thingy. Regardless, whatever. I remember the Mr. Freeze episode in the show itself being incredibly good, and that's another villain with an incredibly tragic backstory. Like, if you look at the rogues gallery of Batman, a lot of them are just incredibly tragic. Like, even Mad Hatter and Jervis Tetch and stuff like that. It's just tragic. Like, what what happens to these people that makes them like this? The only one where there's no redemption to him is the Joker. Like, because nobody really knows what happens to him. There may be this idea that he was like a failed comedian with a wife who was murdered with an unborn child, and like, yeah, that's terribly tragic. But we also don't know if that's true or not, because the whole point of the Joker is that it's multiple choice. You don't really know what's true. But regardless of that, anyway, this series is incredible. The animation kept up. They introduced like key Bat family characters like Nightwing, like Robin, Batgirl. They all come into it later. It's amazing. It's easily an
Tim
S.
Drake Robin as well.
Robin.
Batman, the adventures continue.
Jason Todd, though. Wonder why.
But they have the costume in the case.
Never covered Jason Todd, though. Wonder why. So anyway, that leads us into right at the tail end of the 90s. Right at the tail end of the 90s. Batman Beyond, or as it was known in the UK, Batman of the Future.
Was it Batman of the Future or Batman of Tomorrow?
Batman of the Future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Man. Okay. So, same company, same writers, same animators, advanced, brilliant, so well done. Some of the same actors. Kevin Conroy came back as old Bruce Wayne. Yeah. I can't begin to tell you how much I love Batman Beyond. Like, I love Batman Beyond so much that like I collected all of the Batman Beyond books that continue the story after the TV show finishes. So Wilfred Deal is Terry McGinnis, aka Batman.
Yep.
The whole story is the idea is it's set in the same universe as Batman the animated series. It is 50 years, 60 years after the Batman animated series.
I believe so.
And Bruce Wayne has retired as Batman after having a horrible incident where he almost has a heart attack and has to use a gun, and it freaks him out, so he doesn't ever want to be Batman again. And then young Terry McGinnis, he just so happens to be saving. A long story short, he runs into Bruce Wayne, finds the Batcave, and becomes Batman. But the Batman of the future. And Bruce Wayne rallies against it at first before eventually taking him under his wing and being his mentor. Guy in the chair to take from Spider-Man. Bruce Wayne is Terry McGinnis's guy in the chair. So a couple of differences. So McGinnis is not necessarily the physical specimen that Bruce Wayne was. He's very fit. He's in his youth, so he's like a late teenager Batman. But the suit that he wears enhances his strength, gives him the ability to fly, and gives him several tech advantages, as you would expect. And he can also go invisible as well, which is very handy. We'd all like to just turn invisible sometimes. They did three series of this. I think they did 3 seasons of it.
Yes, 3 seasons.
Yeah. And they did a movie as well, Return of the Joker. So, some amazing rogues gallery of the Batman of the Beyond, Batman of the Beyond, Batman of the Future. So I am thinking of villains like Ink, who is a shape-shifting monster, basically, made of ink. There is Shriek, who is a sound-based villain who uses sound waves to basically cause earthquakes and crush things. There is Blight, who is amazing. So basically, in the future, Wayne Enterprises no longer exists as an entity. They have merged with another corporation called Powers Inc. or something like that, and it is now Wayne Powers is the enterprise. Bruce Wayne has been ostracized from his company. He is out. Derek Powers is the CEO. Derek Powers is a very bad man. He's a very, very bad man, as all corporate CEOs are. And as a result of that, he wants to make money off of very bad things like nerve gas. Batman. So basically, Powers is responsible for Terry's dad dying and getting killed. And that's how you get the kind of tragedy that all Batman need to become Batman, which is, one of his parents gets murdered. His parents are divorced. One of his parents gets murdered. And it's Derek Powers who's responsible for it. So Batman Beyond, the first series, his main villain and the main arc is Blight, who is Derek Powers, because he gets nerve gassed by Batman by accident. Batman accidentally knocks some nerve gas on him. The way to cure that is to have intense radiation therapy, which mutates his cells and turns him into a walking nuclear meltdown. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, guys. Conceptually speaking, when you see the design for Blight, he looks amazing. And he is amazing. And he's basically walking radiation is what he is. And the whole first season is about basically Batman stopping Powers' machinations and going against Blight. They do bring back some classic villains. Mr. Freeze returns in this series for a one-off episode, which is great. You get obviously the Joker appears in the movie.
Bane comes back in a amazing story.
It is an amazing story. Yeah, Bane doesn't come back as you would imagine. Bane comes back.
No. But it's the, again, for a kid show as well, the idea that the years of venom abuse to his body has turned him into this
drug abuse.
Old man, decrepit old man in a hover
with
chair.
A crippled old man. I think The one thing I will say about this show, it is an S. For me, it's an S personally. It's phenomenal. I could watch any episode of this whenever. There's some great appearances. Like Tim Curry is the voice of a South African mercenary in one of the second season episodes. And he's hunted by a character called Kuare, who is one of Batman Beyond's main villains, another great villain, who's a silent assassin. She never speaks, but she just is. She has a perfect record until she encounters Batman. But the one thing I will say is that the show does lose a bit of its arc in terms of kind of once Blight is gone in the first series, it becomes a little bit villain of the week.
Yeah.
After that, which I was sad about. I would much rather have had him be the, he's the central guy in the whole first series. So I would have liked to have seen more of him come back, much like Joker would always come back kind of thing. But it's fine. It's a very minor gripe because the show's quality is so excellent. Possibly not my favorite episode ever, but one of the most memorable episodes for me is when the suit, his bat suit, gets corrupted, and it gets infected by an AI virus, and becomes evil. And so as a result of that, Terry can't wear it, and the suit is actually able to move around on its own and is a functioning thing. And one of the episodes is basically Terry, the man, with just a Nightwing mask on, going up against the bat suit itself. And it's kind of that episode where it's like it proves that he's not just the suit, like he is Batman kind of thing.
Isn't that the same episode where the Batcave attacks Bruce as well, and he has to fend for himself on his own?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
There's loads of episodes like that where you see that Batman is still capable. There's an episode later on where he he goes to fight Ink by himself, and he's got like mega bat armor. It's like he's got it all under a trench coat, and then he tries to take it down. It fails, but Bruce Wayne's still a badass.
My favorite line he has in that is there's an episode where I think he gets psychically some sort of telepath attacks them, and in the end, like, Terry managed to stop it, and he was like, "How did you know you're being attacked and stuff?" And he said,
"Shriek." Shriek who's doing that.
Oh, is it Shriek?
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines like, "They
kept calling me Bruce."
Bruce, yeah, and I don't call myself Bruce. And he's like, "What do you call yourself?" And he just smirks, and he was like, "Of course you would."
That's my name now.
Yeah,
that's right. At the end of that episode. Yeah, I love it. There's a lot of cool things. Like probably some more favorite episodes of mine on this one is where he encounters the Justice League of that time. Yes, where it's the future Justice League. So it's the kid Green Lantern, who I still love conceptually speaking. He looks amazing. It's Hawkman, I think it is. I'm trying to think of who some of the. Is Barda in that? Is Big Barda one of the Justice League at that point? I can't remember.
I don't remember, but I
remember
Superman. Hawkman. Yeah,
and Superman in his white and black suit, who looks amazing,
with greys in his hair.
Yeah, with greys. Yeah, and they're all being like taken over by Starro, aren't they? Like that's the big reveal, is that they've all been like mind hacked by Starro. So this character was so popular, and the show was so popular that when the show ended abruptly at the end of season 3 due to licensing rights and a lot of things with Warner Brothers and networks and such, not Cartoon Network and whatnot, it was so popular that they wanted to bring him back. So they came back for like a one-off episode of Justice League Unlimited, where they finished the story of Terry McGinnis. And it turns out that he is technically a Wayne.
Of course he is.
Yeah, so Amanda Waller basically implants Bruce Wayne DNA into the parents of Mr. and Mrs. McGinnis.
Yes.
And so technically speaking, without doing the old hopping on the good foot and doing the bad thing, Bruce is Terry's father, which makes him a Wayne. And the justification reason for this was that, as Amanda Waller says, the world always needs a Batman. And so there will always be a Batman now.
Yeah, because they were even going to orchestrate the whole idea that there was a nice family day out and the family would be attacked, which would be the trauma trigger to send him on his path to.
Yes, and then the guy who was hired to do it never goes through with it.
It was
and then Waller's like,
Belmont.
"Oh, it was what?"
It was Belmont, the love interest from Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, that's right. It was. Yes, you're right. You're right. Which is why I think, doesn't Waller say, which is why it was incredibly fortuitous that then your father died or something like that. I was like, whoa, okay. But yeah. For me, if you want so this is kind of tied with Spider-Man. If you want a quintessential cartoon to watch as an adult that you could sit down with and enjoy just as much as you were an adult as you were a kid, or if you were just a kid and wanted to introduce your children to comic books and to comic book characters, any of these three shows at the S ranking are where you want to begin. They are phenomenally good. They are easily the best examples of the genre. The A's are extremely good, and once they're into it, maybe show them some of those and see how they like them. But for my money, those top three, that's where it's at.
Yeah, 100%. The only other stuff I was going to say about Batman Beyond, the influence of anime especially in the opening, is incredible.
Oh my god, yeah, it's amazing.
The only reason it came to fruition was that they wanted a teenage Batman to rival Spider-Man. So this was the closest thing to that. Instead of making Bruce Wayne a teenager, Bruce Timm said, no, let's just go clean, fresh board, new character and everything else, which was really cool. So yeah, this is a great idea. This is cool in so many other little ways. And there's loads of crossovers with Batman Beyond. Like we said, Justice League, there's the Static Shock crossover as well. Loads of bits and pieces. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Yeah.
And again, tragic bad guys in that. I'm thinking of things like the Golem and stuff. They're tragic bad guys. Anyway. Anyway, that was the 10 of the cartoons from our childhood that, you know, me and Zane's childhood together, because obviously we grew up together. Obviously set specifically in the 90s. So these were the cartoons from the 90s that you remember. There are other cartoons that were in the 90s that kind of were popular. But those are our 10 that we were like, these are the ones that we watched when we were growing up, and they properly influenced us. So we are curious to hear, though, guys, what were some of your favorite cartoons when you were growing up? 80s, 90s, even the noughties, for those of you out there, those of you freaks who were born in the noughties. God, how are you alive today? What's going on with you? I don't like being old. Let us know. Write into us. Where can they get to us, Zane?
You can email us nerds.undisputed@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, with the same handle, I believe, from memory. If not, links are in the description down below. As always, you can find myself on those platforms as well, at Zane_Taicho and GG. Where can they find you, my friend?
Nowhere. You can't find me anywhere. No, I'm on Instagram at Gentlemanly Gamer. You can sometimes find me on Twitch, although we're phasing down Twitch a little bit at the moment. But you can normally find me twitch.tv/Gentlemanly Gamer. By all means, drop me a few messages. Tell me how rubbish I am, or how right I am. I also like those messages. But yes, it's been fun, man. It's been fun going through these with you. It's nice to think back to my childhood and realize how old I am.
I only do this as a memory exercise.
I was gonna say, yeah. What was that? They used to have it on like the DS, where it's like memory training. Yeah. This is memory training for us.
Training, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Brain training. That's it. Yeah.
We just put it in a podcast and call it a tier list.
That's exactly it. Yeah, nerd brain training. There we go. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure. I've no idea what we're going to talk. Maybe I don't know if I can get access to it, but if I can, then we might talk about Peacemaker next week.
Yeah, we'll have to. Sadly, it's not here in the UK, so we might have to resort to some VPN action and
Not, we don't ever condone that, guys. And if you're a VPN network who wants to sponsor us, get in touch.
Cough, cough, Surfshark.
Yeah. Cough, cough. Nick Cage, we know what you're watching. Right in. Anyway.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Oh, my eyes! My eyes!
Oh, Nick.
No, Nick, we don't want you calling in with that. What are you doing? All right, guys. Well, Zane, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
And,
Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, guys. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.